Hey everyone, this is Noah Plums. We are going to go ahead and create a world. We're going to call it Super Cool World. So the first thing we see is this a multiplayer world? Let's just go ahead and assume yes. Very few people actually want to make a single player world right now. Everyone's really interested in the multiplayer aspect, and surprisingly, the multiplayer server, right, everything that it's based off of, is actually more stable than the single player version. So we're just going to go ahead and use that because it's a little more updated and stable. Alright, successfully created super cool world. It's loading a little bit. It's been a little slow today, my computer. Alright, let's go through everything here. Zoom in a little bit for y'all. Alright, so we got our starting room, starting zone, and then we have this. This is our world name, our realm name. So we're just going to click on that and go through everything. Lobby is going to take you to the main lobby. This is where you're going to make your character, edit your character, description. People can see this if they hover over your name or who is or look. We'll go back to edit. Just look right now. We're going to have a banner later. I'll show you how to do all that. Alright, zones. Starting zone, if you click on it, you're going to see that we only have one zone and one room in this zone. I'm going to go back. A zone it's a way to separate all of the areas in the game. You can have multiple zones. Some of them have different attributes. It's pretty convenient. We're going to go ahead and just start with some very basic building by doing mobs and items. But before anything else, we're just going to look at the configuration because this is a place that some people just get a little overwhelmed with. There's a lot of options. So, advanced configuration, I always like to start there. Starting gold. It just depends on what kind of a world that you're building. Let's just start with 0. It doesn't really matter. Starting room, you can select death EQ loss, so death equipment loss. You lose none, lose all, or just lose gold. I like to just lose gold. If you want to make this a really hardcore game, you can go ahead and lose all, but be aware that some people might not like that, and they might actually, upon their first death, just decide not to play your game anymore. Lose none. The risk is pretty low. It kind of makes PvP or even PvE not super fun or worth it. But that's just your preference. So death room. I like to just have like a medic in one area. You can actually in different zones dedicate a death room. So we'll look into that later. PvP mode, free for all. There are ways to make zones or rooms just not able to have PvP, but I would suggest doing the inverse. So we're going to do PvP zones if we're going to do PvP at all. The PvP zones, and then you can even just select if this zone is able to have PvP or not. So death route, where players go on death. So top faction, nearest room, furthest room, nearest zone. It's related to the death room. Narrative world, you're not going to have any combat. And this is for something if you're into the actual like text-based old school experience, you're just wanting like an adventure or some kind of detective something or another. You want like a narrative world that is interesting and highly detailed where, combat really isn't the main priority. Auto-equip items, definitely. A lot of new players, they might not even know how to work a text game, so we'll just keep that on. Players can set title. That is up to your preference. I have seen some strange things. Can select core faction. I'm gonna say no, because if you uncheck it, all players will start with the same core faction. And in this world, it's a very basic world. We're just going to have one core faction. We can always change this later on, so keep that in mind. You want to start with the bare minimum, and the good part about Written Realms is that you can kind of add on whenever you see that there's a need for something else. Classless players, we're not going to check that right now. I will tell you what that is. So in a normal world, we have warrior, assassin, cleric, mage, and they all have their own benefits, detriments. Like an assassin can attack twice. Keep that in mind, though. If you're not scaling things properly, then you're definitely going to have everyone be an assassin or whatever, and just abusing the equipment that you might not know how to scale correctly. So I like to do classless players because everyone starts with the same stats, and it just depends on the equipment and the skills that they have. But we're going to go with the default. Your card and banner, we're not going to worry about that right now. Built by cool guy. Save. Random item profiles, don't worry about that right now. Transformations, it's something to incorporate later once you have kind of like a good basis. But a transformation it's essentially how fast a mob can roam, like what's the rate of that they sell items at. There's a few different things that you can do. We're going to go back, look at the configuration. World builders, this is if you're collaborating with someone. Be kind of intelligent about who you choose. Maybe a stranger is not the best fit. World factions, we can look at that right now. Let's actually do that. So before anything, we're going to have warrior. That's going to be the code. So whenever you're doing the actual coding, that is what we're going to reference. But the name will also be warrior guild. Let's just do that. It could be a core. It could be a core faction. It's fine. It could be the default is selectable. Starting room. That's for if you have a brand new game and a character or a player wants to make a character that is a warrior. Then they're going to have their own starting room. So, you're going to be coding a lot. Let's just do is core, is default. Perfect. That's all we're going to do for now. Starting equipment totally depends. We're going to skip a few things and go down here. Starting equipment. We don't have any equipment right now. So maybe for a warrior, we might want to make a sword. We might want to make just a very basic shield. We're going to go back and look at what else we have. Custom skills. This is definitely useful if you have a classless world. You can go ahead and add just basic heavy attacks or anything as interesting as you can make a spirit bomb if you want. It's very fun. There's a lot to do, and there's more that's coming out soon. So the world facts, we're not going to set any facts right now. We're going to wait a little later. So let's just say that right now we have a warrior, and we do want him to have some starting equipment. So we're going to go with the items before anything. We're not even going to build a map. We're not going to make a mob. Item template. A short sword. And we're going to just have it as a level 1. And players can equip items up to a certain level. So I think it's within 3 levels. So we're going to have it equipable. We look at this container, something you could put in inert. It's kind of just something that you have in your inventory. I like to have some quest items as inert, or trash, or fish, something that is just like random that kind of will be in your inventory. Trash, definitely. I very rarely use this. There's kind of no reason to have trash, period. But quest, you cannot sell quest items, so keep that in mind. Food, anything you want to eat. A key, literally just a key. This is just to identify something. And ammunition, also just to identify something. It can stack, if that helps. So we're going to have the value. It's 10 gold. The note will be beginner short sword. Cool. The description in the room, a short sword is here. You can keep it. I like to do something like a short sword has been left behind. Interesting, right? It kind of makes the narrative a little more interesting in general. A short sword is here. Okay. A short sword has been left behind. Who left it behind? Who would abandon that? Let's say it has a copper blade and a matching hilt. Okay, interesting. So we do have a scaling system in the docks over here. It'll show you kind of everything that you need. Well, before anything, let's just keep looking at all the other options. We have a one-handed weapon, two-handed weapon, shield, head, body, arms, hands, waist, legs, and feet. This is obviously going to be a one-handed weapon. If maybe it was a long sword, you could do a two-handed weapon, or, you know, a claymore would be a two-handed weapon. So, weapon type, sword, it's just to identify it. So first person, this is what you see when you're attacking someone. So you slash something. Third person is player slashes something. In the advanced settings, can be picked up. Yeah, every single new item will be able to be picked up. Very few occasions cannot be picked up. Allows to go on water. So if you have this magical short sword in your hand, you can just, travel on water. And it is persistent. This is an option I wouldn't recommend any newbies try out. It just means that if you drop it on the ground and the world resets, right, then it's going to be there still. But the issue is the more persistent items you have, the more lag your world has. So it's just not a great idea. Currency, gold and metals. I've never really tried to mess with any of that. I just stick with gold, that's the currency. And you can load the item into the starting room, so let's go ahead and do that. Load item into the starting room. Load a short sword into the starting room? Yeah, of course. So it brings us to the screen, which is a loader screen. And over here, the loads, right? That's highlighted. Let's look. Loader has no description. He might not really need one. Conditions. If you're level 1, then this happens. Right? This is not necessarily useful in this case, but I'm just giving you an idea. So we have one short sword, which is an item in here. This is the actual one. The room, the one room, the starting room. In the zone, it just loads into a random room into the starting zone. So it might be useful if you want to have, like little prizes, like gold that you find around, or something like that. The path, we would have to make a path, and I'll show you that in a moment once we have more rooms. With just one room, there's not a path, you just have one room. And then a rule, we're not going to worry about that right now. So just in this starting room, we have one short sword. And here's the interesting thing. We have over here the respawn frequency, inherit from zone. And the zone right now is 300 seconds, which is a long time. So you can also have it respawn in 30 seconds. So we're going to go ahead and do this. This means that if you're just chilling in this room, you get to have kind of an unlimited amount of swords. But this is a multiplayer world. So we have two different options. Do you want someone to stand here and collect all the swords so no one else can have them whenever they just spawn in expecting to have this equipment? There are some fixes, but for right now, we'll just keep with this. So we'll pretend that there's someone just collecting all the swords. All right. Starting room, edit. This is a dark well. And then, yes, it is indoor. And then the description. Say, a dank and smelly place where no sunlight penetrates. Awesome. Let's go ahead and create a new room north. So you have a few options. Do you want to name it something else, like from dank well to dank corridor? Or do you just want to copy and paste dank well because this is still technically the well? I would recommend not copying and pasting the description. Let's do a new one. Sometimes it jumps back, so you have to be very careful about that. Dank corridor. A short stretch of hallway leads north. The entrance room, let's say just for now, the entrance room is south. You want to typically lean away from having like second person in descriptions. So instead of saying a short stretch of hallway leads to your north, or the entrance room is south to you, we just keep it very neutral. And it just keeps everything really snappy, there's a focus. And we will go to the left, make a new room to the left. Dank staircase. A few steps lead up. Create a new room. We have up and down. Up. We'll do foggy woodlands. And then over here we're going to do forest. So for these room types, every player starts off with stamina, like 100 stamina. You can kind of see here how much stamina it takes to traverse. So a forest is, a pretty dense area. So if you're going to be making a lot of rooms, your stamina is going to deplete so fast. So you want to be intentional. Are the rooms that you're making necessary? Do you want to have a square, a 25 by 25 square that's going to deplete your stamina? Probably not. You want to kind of plot the main paths, any caverns, any houses or structures, buildings, anything like that are of interest. So everything is of interest. You're cutting as much fat as possible, especially with the text game, where people's attention spans lately, they're not amazing, especially with the text game. There's a lot of reading, there's a lot of focus. So for now, foggy woodlands, we will say a staircase leads to a well down. It doesn't matter. A staircase down leads to a well. There we go. Doesn't make too much sense, but it's fine. So what if you want to add a little more description? Just go ahead and open this up. Tall trees loom overhead. So let's just say that we don't want to have a 25 by 25 zone, right? With every single room filled up. Let's add some bits of interest. A staircase down leads to a well. It is covered by a mossy dome. Tall trees loom overhead. There are remnants of a treehouse structure. There are remnants of an abandoned treehouse structure up above. Okay, so now we're setting the scene. Cool. We have enough rooms right now. We have 4 rooms. Let's do... 4 rooms is fine. We're going to go back to our original room. Alright. So let's go ahead and make another item. Let's do a pair of binoculars. And it will be not equipable, but just inert. It's something that you have in your inventory. And gold value, just 1. A pair of binoculars is here. That doesn't make any sense. A pair of binoculars are here. Or have been left on the ground, or whatever. It is a pair of binoculars. You don't really need to add a description for that. It's fine. So let's go to configuration, starting equipment. We only have 2 items. So a pair of binoculars, we will just do 1 copy, archetype all. So you could have specifically just for the warrior or the mage or whatever, but we're going to have it for everyone. So a pair of binoculars. So my goal right now is for the player to enter the Foggy Woodlands and they want to know what's going on with the treehouse. So we have our items. And then we have our item ID over here. So we're just going to go ahead and copy and paste over here. Inspect trees. Inspect trees. Conditions. Item underscore in underscore INV paste. Let's look at these conditions. What do we have? We have archetype, which is like your class. So warrior, mage, cleric, whatever. Core faction. We have warrior. That's all we have right now. Fact check. We don't have any fact set. We have a gender. So it depends on your player. What do they make their character as? Gold. How much gold do you have? Can you do this if you have less than 10 gold? You can probably inspect trees if you have no gold. Has weapon. So if you have a weapon equipped. Has shield. If you have a shield equipped. Health percentage, right? In combat. So let's do this. Let's just make this as specific as possible. In combat. And item in an inventory 18449, which is binoculars. So it wouldn't make sense to inspect the trees if you were in combat. So we will do not in combat. And if you have the binoculars in your inventory. Let's see what else we have. I see item in equipment. That's if you have it equipped, like your sword. Item in inventory, just if you have it on you. Item in room, right? Level, maybe at a certain point. If you're level 5, you don't want to inspect the trees anymore. You've inspected them enough. Mark, we'll go into marks in a minute. Mob in room, player in room. So the mob in room is like an NPC. So let's say we have like a forest, I don't know, forest guardian. So you have a forest guardian in the Foggy Woodlands, and you can only inspect the trees if he's there, right? Player in room. This is kind of specific and redundant. Obviously, if you're in the room, you're going to be able to do this. But quest complete. We don't have any quests right now. So the standing we'll get into a little bit later. We don't need a standing for this. Wields weapon type. So if you wield the sword, you can do this. If you don't, or not wield weapon type sword, right? So let's go over here and see what happens. If we press save, it's going to tell us that we need to put something in there. This field may not be blank. So we're going to start with send actor. We have send space, and we have these brackets with the gap. This is who is instigating the command, the actor. So anybody who is doing this is the actor, right? A new player is the actor. It happens whenever a new player comes in. Send actor. You take out your binoculars and inspect the trees. Space will give you a 2-second pause before anything else happens. If you want to add a little more time, pass will give you another 2 seconds. And we'll just keep it like this for now. Send actor. The Structures appear to be abandoned, but only recently, so sure, sounds good. Action cooldown 10 seconds. We'll keep it. The failure message. It's not the action's not going to pop up if you don't have the binoculars in your inventory. But it might pop up if you're in combat due to the fact that it doesn't erase on the screen if you walked into the room and already saw that it's there. It's kind of hard to explain. So you walk into a room, see the action, and you're about to press it, but you get into combat. And if you press it while you're in combat, it says not in combat. So it'll say you cannot be in combat. So right now, we have a few rooms. We're going to go to our lobby. Builder, that's your default character. Play as Builder. It's going to drop us right in. Alright. A dank and smelly place where no sunlight penetrates. A short sword has been left behind. So if you hover over it, get sword. And then you wield it automatically because we kept that checked earlier. So we look at our stats. You can say remove sword. Okay. Remove sword spelled correctly. And then look how our damage fell. So wield sword. Alright, we didn't even add any any attributes to the sword. Alright. So we have nothing else in our inventory except for... we didn't start with the binoculars because the character is already made. So let's get out of here. Alright. Create new character. Frank, the Woman Warrior. Alright, play as Frank, the Woman Warrior. So this is not going to be a builder. And the builder character is someone who basically has God mode on. So let's see now. Yep, in our items we have the pair of binoculars because this is made after the fact. So it's good to keep this in mind that some things just don't update in real time. So let's go ahead and get sword, spelled correctly. We'll go north, go west. You can press U or just type up. Aha. We have inspect trees, and this is because we have the binoculars in our inventory. Let's see what happens when we drop binoculars. And a good way to test to see if these types of things work, type look. Yeah, it's not there anymore. The room action's not there. But if we type get binoculars, type look, aha, I can inspect the trees. Let's go ahead and do it. The structures appear to be abandoned, but only recently so. Well, it's a good thing I have a short sword.